There we go. Everyone was quiet already anyway, so that's okay. Well, good evening. Welcome to our Temple City regular City Council meeting of December 3rd, 2024. I'd like to call the meeting to order. Madam Clerk, if we could have roll call, please.
Yes, Mayor. Councilmember Chen?
Here.
Councilmember Mann?
Here.
Councilmember Sternquist?
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Yu?
Here.
Mayor Chavez?
Here. Okay, we will start as we always do with our invocation. We're pleased to have with us again tonight Pastor Kelty from Community of Christ Church, who will provide the invocation for us this evening. We're thankful that you made it in one piece, so we're ready to go.
There sure is a lot of construction going on in the streets around the neighborhood.
Yeah, but we have nothing to do with that, okay? So after the invocation, please remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance, okay? So please stand.
Our divine Creator, we thank you for this world that you have created and for this beautiful day which brings light to our lives on the cool side. We thank you that we're able to live in this community, enjoy all of its benefits that it has to offer us. We would come into your presence in prayer this evening to ask your blessing upon all those who are gathered above, all who are gathered here tonight as we do the city's business, that we indeed might be able to share those blessings and bestow those blessings for those who come upon us. We pray too for both the city council and their staff. May they have your wisdom to be with them as they seek to do those things that indeed would make this a better community. We know not what the future may bring, but we would ask, dear Creator, that in all we do this evening and in the future be not just for this generation, for all those generations that come after us, that indeed they might look back and say they did a good job. Indeed, dear Father, dear Creator, we indeed look to a positive outlook for the future. For the future generations to look back, indeed, for present generations to look forward, would be our prayer. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Pastor Kelty. Okay, if you'll please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance, please face the flag, place your right hand over your heart. Ready, begin.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, thank you. Be seated. Okay, we're going to start with our ceremonial matters this morning, and this is always one of the highlights of our year, and that is to recognize our bookmark contest winners from our Temple City Library. So before we introduce the young men and women who are going to be getting the awards tonight, I would like to introduce Ann Kwok, who is here, our teen and adult librarian, to give an introduction to the bookmark contest. So Ann, please join us. Thank you.
Thank you for having us. My name's Ann Kwok. I'm the teen adult librarian over at Temple City Library. In September 2024, so students from kindergarten through 12th grade were invited to participate in the LA County Library's 45th annual bookmark contest. Now, bookmark contest aims to encourage the love of reading as well as promoting creativity and artistic expression. And each library is supposed to select 4 winners. And in the four winners is out of 4 different categories. The categories is from K to 2nd grade, and then 3rd to 5th grade, and then 6th grade to 8th grade, and then 9th grade to 12th grade. Now, each of these local winners are then forwarded to the representatives of the Board of Supervisors. And then in the spring of 2025, the Board of Supervisors will then select a winner from all 86 libraries throughout LA County. And once those 20 winners have been selected, their bookmarks will be printed and distributed throughout the libraries. This year, we had received over 300 entries. To be exact, it's actually 363. So I can tell you all the students put a lot of effort in them, and they did really nice bookmarks. We invited people from the community to come and judge, and we even had some city council member help us judge as well. and then even people from the school district. So we really appreciate that. And then I would also like to congratulate all the winners and the participants because they did put a lot of effort to it. And we will also display the bookmark submissions, each and every one of them. Unless they weren't part of our area, we had to send some to the other locations because it's based on where you live. So we did have to send some to a different area, but we do display all the ones that we did receive within locally, and we'll put it in the children's area. So if you want to come in and look at all of them, feel free. We don't have it up just yet, but definitely by maybe in 2 weeks, we'll have it up. So stop by. But I don't want to delay any longer. We'll have the city council members call out the winners. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I can tell you that, thank you. I can personally tell you that it was very difficult. I was one of the judges. And it was tough. I'll tell you, it was tough. We have some very talented young men and women in this community, as we all know. And they did a fantastic job. So congratulations to all the winners tonight. What we would like to do is to recognize each and every one of you who are here this evening. I'm going to ask my fellow council members to join me at the podium to give out the certificates of recognition. So when you hear your name called, if you are here, please come up and get your certificate. And then if you don't mind, just come in the middle front area here and we'll get ready to take a photo. Wait a minute, we don't have Jerry here though. Who's going to take the photo? We'll have to have, where'd Brian go? Brian will take a, okay. Adam, will you mind doing that? Okay, great. Okay, so you can see some of the winners up there on the screen. So without further ado, we'll go ahead and get started. Now, I'm going to, if everyone wants to come up and join me, I'm going to announce the winners, but the certificates aren't in any real order, so we're going to have to search for them. Yeah, you can help me do that. So, okay.
All different schools.
We're going to do the second category first. What we got? Okay, can you guys all hear me? Yeah. Okay, great. Okay, so we're going to start as Ann mentioned, we have different categories. So we'll start first with the K through second category. And I'm going to announce the 2 honorable mention winners, and then we'll announce the winner last, okay? So our first honorable mention winner is Olivia Sun. Is Olivia here? Come on up, Olivia. So have her go right over there if you don't mind. Yeah, just stand there. Okay, next honorable mention in the K to second category, Cassie Wong. Is Cassie here this evening? Cassie's here, there you go. Congratulations. And the winner of our K to second category is William Jin. Is William here? There he is, look at that, there he is coming all up. Go on, right there. Congratulations.
What grade is he?
K to second. You look, what grade is he in? Dad? What grade? Second?
Second?
Okay, kindergarten. Kindergarten, all right. Congratulations. Okay, now we're going to move to the, let's see, we've got the 3rd to 5th grade category. And we've got our honorable mention, Aaron Lee. Is Aaron here? All right, come on up, Aaron. And our next honorable mention is Audrey Zhu. Audrey? Is Audrey here? She couldn't make it. Okay, we'll get that to you later. Okay. And our winner in this category, 3rd to 5th grade, is Sherry Ma. Sherry? Is Sherry here? There she is. Come on up. Come on up. Congratulations. All right. Okay, our next category is the 6th to 8th grade group. And we've got honorable mention, Sophie Zhao. Is Sophie here? There she is. Come on up, Sophie. And then we have another honorable mention, Victoria Wang. Victoria, come on up. Congratulations. And our winner of the 6th to 8th grade category, Tiffany Wang. All right, congratulations, Tiffany. Okay, our last grouping is the 9th to 12th grade, okay? Our honorable mention, Abby, Abby, is Abby here? All right, come on up, come on up. Congratulations. And our next honorable mention is Elrose Chan. Elrose, come on up. Congratulations. And the winner of the 9th to 12th grade category, Melanie Zhang. Is Melanie here? There she is. Congratulations. Come on up. All right. So how about a big round of applause for all of them? Okay. So now we're going to get a group photo. So we'll get in the back, and all of you kind of squeeze in and hold your certificates up in front of you. Yeah, and come on up. Someone here. Oh, she wants to take a photo too. All right. Make sure they can see your face. Come on up a little closer. Go a little closer.
Jerry, jump in.
All right.
All right, is everybody ready?
Hold on. Can you get all of us?
Yes.
All right.
All right, let's look at you. Ready? 1, 2, 3. Ready? 1, 2, 3. And parents, if you want.
Yeah. You want to go on and take the photos? Okay, congratulations. Thank you, guys. Now, you can also watch this on TV later on, so you can see yourself on TV later, okay? All right. Now you get to go home and do your homework. And? Thank you.
This is the cutest part of the proceedings tonight.
Okay, we'll wait a couple of minutes. Well, we go from a full house to an empty house, but not quite, but we're okay. All right. I think Ann left, but she did leave us with a couple of future events. Maybe I'll go ahead and fill those in for her. The county library is going to be hosting what they call a STEAM house, Learn Basics of Building and Structures, and that is going to be Wednesday, December 18th from 2 to 3 o'clock. So if anybody's interested, you can get more information from the library. From December 4th through December 18th, they're going to have fentanyl test strip clinic and different testing strips for Narcan and things like that. So if anybody's interested in that, that's going to be on Wednesdays between December 4th and December 18th from 12 to 4. And then they're going to have a teen advisory board on dining etiquette. That's interesting. Maybe we should all go to that. Friday, December 13th from 4 to 5 o'clock for all those teens who are interested in proper dining etiquette. So getting ready for the holidays. So thank you for doing that and appreciate all the work that they do. And again, all the winners, they did a fantastic job. And hopefully we'll get some more information as they move up and further on in this competition. So thank you. Okay. With that, we will now move on to item number 6, our public comments. City Council will now hear public comments regarding items not listed on the agenda. I do have one speaker request form. James Paunette. Jimmy, if you want to come on up to the podium, and it's your turn. Leave your hat there.
9448.
No, we've got all the information, so come on up. Go ahead.
Good evening. My name is James Paunette.
Good evening.
I live at 4915 Ardsley in Temple City. And Elizabeth Hampton lives right across the street from the priest house at St. Luke's. And I went to go to Mass at 9 o'clock in the morning, and it was Wednesday, Valentine's Day, February 14th, and it happened to be Ash Wednesday. So there was no parking at St. Luke's parking lot that morning, so I pulled out of the parking lot and parked in front of her house. And I went to Mass, came out, and I had a ticket of $55 on my window. And she wrote a letter about what happened, and I got a letter from Karen Fuller from the office of St. Luke's, and she writes, "I am asking you to appeal your decision for the above referenced citation."
Wait, you wrote a letter
Huh?
letter went to who? Who was the letter? You sent a letter to someone, you said. Who was that?
To the citation.
Okay, so you wrote a letter to the city,
Uh-huh.
and you got a response from somebody at St. Luke's? What's that got to do with it?
No, she wrote a letter saying that many parishioners on Broadway will come to our services, have gotten tickets on Broadway. So we have a ticket trap on Broadway from Temple City to Alessandro. Now Alessandro ends into Broadway. There are 3 no parking signs from Alessandro to Ensenada. But to St. Luke's, there's like 10 or 12 houses.
Yeah, well, what happened?
Okay, if you're going to speak, you'll have to come to the podium and identify yourself, please, for the record. Okay?
Yeah, Elizabeth.
Good evening, everybody. My name's Elizabeth Lampton. I live at 9448 Broadway, across, 2 doors over from Cloverly Street, if you know that area, right across the street from the rectory. And as it happens, they have a street cleaning sign in front of Cloverly School, which is east on the other side of Cloverly. It's east of where the church and where we're talking about. There's no signs telling the people that they cannot park on Wednesday, which happened to be Ash Wednesday. And it was just solid cars because there was no parking in the parking lot on Cloverly or in St. Luke's parking lot. So they were all parking on Broadway between Cloverly and all the way down past Alessandro because it was Ash Wednesday. Anyway, what we were asking for is if we could have a sign, a no parking because of street sweeping day on our side, on the west side of Broadway, instead of across the street in front of Cloverly School, because the parishioners can't see the sign. The trees hide it, and it's just...
Are you saying there's no sign, or the trees are hiding the signs?
Well, the sign is on the other side, far side of Cloverly.
Okay.
And it can't be seen from Cloverly going west down.
Okay.
And that's where all the parishioners park, and it was...
Let me ask you one thing. Okay, well, you didn't get a ticket though, right?
No, I
Okay.
live in...
So Jimmy, you got a ticket. Did you appeal that ticket or do anything to?
I did.
You appealed it?
I went through an appeal.
You went through the process, okay, and was the
And I
appeal,
didn't like it, so I went to the Superior Court downtown on Spring Street.
you went downtown to file a lawsuit?
Oh, I did, yeah.
Okay, and what happened with that?
I had a hearing on October 25th
Okay,
down on Spring Street. I
Uh-huh.
parked at the cathedral and walked over to it.
uh-huh,
and went on the 8th floor or 7th floor.
I don't have to, you don't have to go into that detail, but just what happened?
And it was just me and another elderly lady.
Uh-huh.
And she had all my paperwork in front of her, and she says, "Oh, I'm going to write you a letter," which I have here tonight, "and I'm going to write you a check for your ticket." Because
Wait, this is a lady, just a complete stranger?
the commissioner, yeah.
Wait a minute, the commissioner gave you a check and a letter?
The check came the day before Thanksgiving, so I'm very grateful.
Break came from who?
It came from the Citation Process Center
Okay.
in Trust
All
for
right, so it
City of
sounds to
Temple
me
City.
like, it sounds to me like your appeal was upheld, you've been made whole.
Right.
But now you're here tonight to request more signage in the area.
That's
So it
right.
doesn't happen in the future.
That's what
Okay,
we're
that's
hoping,
fair
that you
enough.
put
So
more
I will,
signage.
we will direct, even though we cannot take any action on that this evening.
Okay.
Our city manager, Brian Cook, is here. I know he's been taking notes, and we'll look into that area and see what needs to be done, if anything. Okay? So
Okay.
thank you for bringing that to our attention. We appreciate it.
And
Did
this
you
was
need
the,
anything else?
yes, this was a letter from the
That's okay. It sounds-
secretary of St. Luke's, and this
Okay.
is the letter from her. She wrote all this.
Okay, all right. And you guys have all written letters have those letters been sent to the city? Or you just have them tonight and you want to present them to us?
I can leave a copy of them. You want them?
If you want, you can leave it with our clerk, certainly, yes. But in the future, whenever you want to contact City Hall, you should send that to City Hall so they can be acted upon maybe a little bit sooner than coming here tonight. Okay?
Okay.
All right.
So I won't
okay.
need to come next month?
You need to come next month?
No.
To
No,
this
you don't need to
meeting?
come next month.
No.
Or
We're-
do I need
we're
to
going-
come to
We're
the?
going to look into the issue that you've been brought up.
Right.
To see if we need more signage there or what the
Oh, yeah.
situation is. And then we will take care of it, and I'm sure we have your information, and we'll have somebody contact you one way or another. How's that? Okay.
The commissioner said that she can do those things for me, giving my money back in a letter,
Okay.
but she says she has no authority to put more sign up, so I need to come to
No,
the
she's
city
correct.
hall.
She does not have the authority to do that, so.
Yeah, and so
We will take care of that end of it, okay?
this is what we're hoping. And parking appeal was
Do you have to pay
reversed.
for that?
Yeah.
So I got the reverse
Well,
letter.
good. I'm glad you
$35.
got that information. That's a good thing.
Yes.
And we will look on it from our end and see what we can do about the signage, okay?
So do you need copies of this?
I don't
Not
think
right
so. No, I don't think so. We don't need copies. Because our end of it is just more of what we have to do in the city, not regarding your ticket per se, okay?
But there is a problem there,
All right, yeah, and we will look into it, I promise, okay?
definitely.
All right, thank you very
Okay.
much.
Thank you and have a
Ma'am, did
Merry
you
Christmas.
want? Okay, you have to come up to the podium and say your name and go ahead.
My name is Elisa Pieri. I live at 9444 Broadway. That's
Uh-huh.
right across the street from St. Luke's.
Okay.
I just want to add that he's not the only guy that got a ticket. 13 cars. I went down the street and counted, and I actually tried to ask the officer, I actually thought it was a funeral, and I thought it would be horrible to get out of a funeral and have a ticket on your car. And, I asked him, obviously there's something going on, please don't give him a ticket. I don't mind that it's not getting swept in front of my street, but he said, I'm just doing my job, which I understand. But on a day like that, I would hope that they could give it a special pass. Anyway, I just want to say that if the signs were properly put, 13 people wouldn't have parked there. If it was just one, I can understand, but 13
Well,
cars
I
didn't see a
certainly hear
sign.
what you're saying, and I understand, although you have to understand, we've had people come to the city and complain about the ticket they got, and they were parked right in front of the sign.
But this
So
isn't the
it
case.
can go either way.
I know.
I appreciate it, I hear what you're saying.
Yeah.
And if there's a problem, as I said, we will look into it to
Yeah.
see if more signage
And
needs to be put up there.
it's not homes right there, because you have homes, so the residents live there, know, of course, it's street sweeping day.
Right.
But because there's two churches, the patrons of those churches don't know because they're coming from many areas. I'm
Well,
sorry.
perhaps there needs to be a little education between the city and the churches regarding those type of events, and the fact that if they have a full house, maybe they need to announce, by the way, you can't park on this side of the street.
I agree with that, too,
Or
yes.
you're going to get a ticket. So,
Yes.
So we'll get that communication going and see if we can rectify that problem,
right.
because it's certainly something that should be fixed, I agree.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, appreciate you coming this evening.
Elizabeth
And,
stated that as soon as we got in the church, the police called for backup.
There were 3. I should.
This is a group effort.
I guess we're not supposed to speak from our chairs, but it was really, it wasn't funny, but it was weird. The city, whoever's in charge, sent out one person in their little white car to write the tickets. Before we knew it, there were 3 city cars writing tickets as fast as they could for all the people, which is their job, but one wasn't enough. You could ask my neighbor.
What was the date again?
It was Ash Wednesday, which happened to be February 14th of last year, 23.
Wait, this happened on
24.
February
24.
February 14th of this year.
This year.
Okay.
But it was kind of weird that the city sent out 3 cars, not one.
I don't know anything about that, but we'll certainly follow up. Okay.
Anyway, no, it's their job, I guess. But it was like they were writing as many tickets as they possibly could. It just seemed kind of different.
No, that does
unethical
sound different. It doesn't
for the
sound-
city to
it
write
doesn't
as many
sound according
tickets
to
as
what
they
we normally
could.
do. So we'll
You
look
know,
into it.
yeah, they should. The sign is on the wrong corner. That's the whole thing.
We'll look into it.
Thank you so
All right,
much.
thank you for coming. Appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome, Jimmy.
Merry-
Have a happy holiday. We'll see you
Have a-
Friday, I'm sure.
Merry Christmas.
All right, Merry Christmas to you. Okay. All right, anyone else would like to speak at this time? Okay, seeing no one else, I will close public comments.
Mayor?
Yeah. Oh, yeah, I'm sorry. Thank you for reminding me. Somebody asked to. Okay, we have a very special guest. Carolina Ceballos is here from Southern California Edison, Local Public Affairs Vice President, and she would like to introduce
yes.
herself and
Not
greetings.
yet, not
Thank you
yet.
for coming.
Well,
Okay.
good evening.
Hold on one second. Guys, you'll have to, if you're going to want to talk, you have to go outside, okay? If you want to talk, you'll have to go outside. All right, thank you. Okay, go ahead.
Hi, good evening.
Good evening.
honorable- Good evening, and council members and also city staff. My name is Carolina Ceballos, and I am pleased to be your interim government relations managers for Southern California Edison, until further notice, not vice president yet. But I actually sent out a communication a few weeks ago, but I wanted to come in person and introduce myself and also provide you my business card, which you guys should all have it up there. And I did want to also share with, I noticed there's only a few city residents, but should any residents have issues right now, or challenges, I should say, with your energy bill, you guys could go to sce.com/affordability, and there's assisting options there. So definitely look into that.
I think we could all use lower bills.
Yeah, we all do, believe me. Oh, believe me.
I keep turning those lights off, but the bills keep coming.
I know. And then just basically, should you have any questions or any concerns, please feel free to reach out, or if you just want to connect with me, you got my information.
Well, thank
there.
you. It's nice to see a face behind the names, and thank you for coming this
No,
evening.
well,
and
thank you for giving me
hopefully
the
we
time.
won't have any windstorms in the near
No.
future. I don't know if you were around at that time.
No, we like rain. We like rain, remember
Yeah,
that. Yes, we
okay.
do. So,
Okay, well, thank you very much.
looking forward
It
to
was a
working
pleasure.
with you guys. Thank you so
You're
much.
welcome
Have a good
anytime.
night.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, have a good evening. Okay, all right, now we will close public comments. We will now move on to item 7, our consent calendar. All consent calendar items may be approved in a single motion as recommended unless removed for further discussion. Do we have any council members that would wish to pull any items? If not, we will entertain a motion.
Mayor, I'll move to approve the consent calendar.
Thank you.
Second.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second. Unless there's any objection, can we have roll call, please, Madam Clerk?
Thank you, Mayor. Councilmember Chen?
Yes.
Councilmember Mann?
Yes.
Councilmember Sternquist?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Yu?
Yes.
Mayor Chavez?
Yes. Okay, that it passes unanimously. I just want to point out a couple of things on the consent calendar regarding regular business. We did have one item, just to bring to your attention, there's going to be a Temple Sheriff Station mug run. All of you are maybe familiar with that in the past. It's going to be held this year, December 14th, so the street, there will be some temporary lane closures on Las Tunas between Muscatel and Rosemead for that event. So just keep that in mind. And also pleased to have had approved our new memorandum of understanding with the Historical Society of Temple City for the use of their facilities, and of course for providing our museum services to the public. The museum and the Historical Society has done a fantastic job in bringing that place back to a fantastic place to visit and to use, and we do appreciate on the city side the use of those facilities that we've had over the past year. So thank you again, and we look forward to a continued relationship on that ground. Okay, so we will now move on to item 8, public hearing. There is none. Number 9, unfinished business. There is none. New business. We have new business. Our first item is the Live Oak Park Playground sign selection and authorization for city manager to enter into an agreement for the production and installation of the sign. And I believe, are you going to start, Brian, or is Adam?
I'll start.
Okay, go ahead.
Mayor Chavez, and then I'll turn it over to Adam. And Ryan from SWA, who you've seen before during the presentations, is here as well. So this is a follow-up. The council did award a while ago 2 contracts for Live Oak Park and for Temple City Park, one of which is completed and one of which is in progress. If you haven't seen it most recently, the smaller shade sails are up, and they are impressive. It's going to be an impressive facility that's going to be something for many decades to come for people to be proud of. With that, we talked about a sign in terms of identifying some of the history of this of the park, and also to having it as a piece itself. So before you tonight is some concept designs related to the ideas. The name itself is it doesn't have to be Astroplay or Astroland. If the council wants to come up with a name as well, that is up to the council's discretion as well. But with that, I will turn it over to Adam and Ryan for presentation.
Thank you. Mr. Mitsumoto, it's all yours.
Thank you, City Manager Cook, and good evening, Mayor Chavez and City Council. As our City Manager had mentioned before us today, we do have 2 designs for monument signage for Live Oak Park. Really, this was something that we wanted to create as a opportunity.
Let me interrupt. Yes. Peggy, are you going to be able to put those up?
I'll be, once I turn it over to Ryan, we'll bring up the presentation.
Okay, you don't want to put those up now? Okay,
So,
go ahead.
This is our opportunity to really highlight what we think is hopefully a showcase piece for the city and for a playground in the region. So we have 2 sign designs, working with SWA and Ryan McKay. We also looked at an opportunity for potentially branding the playground. So they have some options there. Really the inspiration for that, at least first design, was to harken back to kind of the space race era, which is part of the reason why Astroland kind of came into an option in terms of branding. But it could also just be a place to list Live Oak Park as well. It doesn't necessarily have to be its own specific branding, but it's an option for the council to consider. So with that, I'll turn it over to SWA landscape architect Ryan McKay for the presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, Adam, and thank you, Mayor Chavez and the rest of the City Council for having me.
Welcome,
it's good to
Ryan.
see you all. It's been a while, but excited to be back. So have a brief presentation. I know we've gone long in the past. So wanted to present the 2 concepts, but just step back. The intent of the signage here is to honor the site's history. We know that the project is all based around the historic rocket that was installed around the 60s. Educate why the design is the way that it is, and dedicate the council members and the design team as a monument. And then, as Adam mentioned, we also have some opportunities from branding. When looking at the whole park as a system, it seems that we've really carved out its own kind of unique place just for the playground itself. So there's opportunity that it could really become like its own brand or name just for the playground itself inside of the Live Oak Park and whole. So we'll start there. We kind of thought of two ideas, Astro Play versus Astro Land, kind of evoking that 60s, turn of the century era of, space exploration, which we're kind of restarting into current day. So these are just starting points, but would open up to you all to get feedback if you'd like to kind of go this direction with branding, and if you gravitate to either of these names or have an option for another. I think we'll just click through the whole presentation and then open up for comment. For signage content, we've kind of laid this out in a spread here of just generally talking about a brief stance on the kind of the bringing generations together, the big concept we had from the start, talking about the history of the rocket within Live Oak Park, and then all the different features that are on the playground itself in the resilient surfacing, and educating a little bit about each of those features for kids and families that visit the playground. And then lastly, the dedication portion, which would have city council members, Parks and Rec Commission, city project team, design and construction team. So the two options we have, we'll start with the first option, which is reinforcing kind of the rocket ship. The concept is a vertical rocket ship with a double-sided graphic that shows off all of that content. And the two concepts you're going to see are basically how this information is laid out on a 3D form. So this is a 2D view from the front and back. We're looking at about an 8-foot tall structure here with graphic at eye level for both adults and kids. And if you go to the next page, this is kind of what it looks like in a 3D view. And what we envision this as a metal rocket with little fins at the bottom, and potentially an idea of having kind of this red base that could be illuminated from the bottom of the actual rocket vessel itself to kind of look like it's lifting off. And yeah, so this one's the first option we're really excited about. The second, taking the inspiration from aeronautical kind of like folded wings and origami. This is the idea of one piece of metal looking like it's folded over, so you can read from the front and the back. And then on the next slide, we have a kind of 3D visual of this. So a thin profile, a little bit more of a traditional sign, flat panels, a little shorter as well as this one, but evoking that kind of wing aeronautical design. And then for the location, locating it kind of at the entry to the park from the plan north, in that picnic area where we have 2 picnic tables, right as you're entering from the parking lot, so it's prominent as you're entering the park. And then as mentioned, there was a kind of lighting option for the rocket. We see in both designs there could be optional to have additional illumination. There's obviously park lighting that will light up the sign and can be read during the day, but it would be nice also to include some uplighting. So we're proposing as an option for you all to decide if we should move forward with would be to have these Targetti in-grade mounted lights. This is a reputable brand that we have installed in many municipalities across Southern California. In both options, you just have front and back illumination in the grade, in the concrete. And then we've also just done a cost analysis. So tonight, I think you're approving a $40,000 increase, but our estimates show that they're in the range of $32,000 to $27,000, depending on the complexity of the structure. Obviously, the rocket's a little bit more complex with the additional lighting and elements versus the option 2 of the folded wing design. So,
okay, does that conclude your report?
It does.
All right, thank you. So, for just the sake of keeping this online and to kind of get through it, because I know we'll probably all have certain comments and opinions about this. Let's first start off with only questions from the council. So we'll save our comments till another part, but does anyone on the council have any questions for either Ryan or Adam? And we'll start over here. No? Okay. Any questions?
Well, I have just a couple clarification
Okay,
questions. The first one was that the term branding had been mentioned multiple times. I'm not quite sure what I really understand what that meant. Are you starting to call the park a different name, Or are you trying to say that from here on, everything has to do with this portion is going to be called Astroland? I mean, what do you really mean by branding?
Go ahead, Adam.
Sure. Mayor Pro Tem, so in terms of branding, I think if we think locally, there's a La Laguna playground in San Gabriel, so it's, more colloquially known as like Dinosaur Park or Monster Park. So it has like its own kind of separate identity as a play feature of the larger area, which is Vincent Lugo Park. We're not looking at rebranding Live Oak Park. Live Oak Park is a tried and true name and brand in and of itself. This was just more of an opportunity because of the unique nature, the showcase nature of this playground, that maybe it does have some sort of branding that the city can apply to it, or maybe that just happens more organically and the community comes up with a name that they reference that particular playground. So instead of it just being the Live Oak Park Playground, maybe they, like before, it's, we want to go to the Rocket Playground or something along those lines. This is just kind of a first, maybe getting ahead of that. But it doesn't have to be something that we either decide now or even take on, at the meeting or from a signage standpoint. Maybe that just happens more organically, and it's just something the community comes up with over time. So it was just something that SWA thought was an opportunity, but it doesn't necessarily have to be a part of this discussion if it's not the desire of the council.
Okay. Anything else?
I do have a second question. The second question really has to do with money. So this was not part of the original design concept, and so for the money that the budget that the city council had approved did not include any signage line items?
So what we included, so the council budgeted a little over $4 million for both projects. We did not have per se a line item for signage. Adam can correct me if I'm wrong here.
Sure. So the original agreement with for the project, the construction of the project, did not have signage as part of a line item for that budget. So that was $4.5 million that was allocated out. Based off of the approval of the concept design of the playgrounds, it was mentioned by council, hey, it would be nice to be able to tell the story behind the design of Live Oak Park Playground specifically, because it is unique. It's maybe something that you wouldn't necessarily know about just by looking at it, so having a sign would help out. So based off of that, those comments, we came back in October for the second amendment to the agreement with SWA. That included some additional construction oversight as well as this signage component, but that was strictly for design services. It wasn't for the physical sign as well. So this allocation would be for the construction and installation of the sign, which would be separate from the design costs that were previously approved.
So it's in addition to $4.5 million or whatever that number is.
So the $4.5 million
coming from like contingency.
Correct.
Allocated.
We would create a line item within the contingency portion of that $4.5 million, which at this time we're well within. We wouldn't be exceeding that 4.5.
Yeah, so you're not
Correct.
really not considering additional monies.
No, it's just
tonight is really proving the concept.
Correct, and reallocating that 4.5 to carving out a line item for it.
Okay.
That's all. Thank you, Mayor.
Councilmember Sternquist, you had a question?
I was wondering if you, instead of calling it a brand, that you just have a title of the playground, because I think what's going to happen is.
The Cynthia Sternquist playground?
Sure.
Oh, okay.
But I mean, I was thinking back, when was that original Rocket placed there?
So we've done some research, some extensive research, and we don't have an exact date. We think it maybe predates actually the incorporation of the city. So, or right around that time, so probably sometime around in the 60s.
Okay.
Originally. We were looking back, and that was as close as we could kind of come up with, at least a ballpark time frame of when it was installed.
Well, I mean, I was just thinking, I believe that really the playground area itself is going to name itself. But I think it would be like fun to have, I mean, not that Astroland and what was the other one?
That was it.
Astroplay.
Astroplay are not creative. I just think it's kind of benign. And maybe there's something a little bit more fun. I mean, I was.
You're getting into comments.
Oh,
let's
so
quick-
I
just
was
questions.
wondering if you had thought of like a title, something like Lost in Space, which took place in 1960s. Or had you thought of any, like maybe just a title of the playground instead of a brand for it? Because I think
Sure.
it's two different things.
Yeah, I think conceptually we were thinking along those lines of just, it's a name for the playground. So, for SWA, they really, the colors and then the terminology, the use of Astro was really inspired from the 60s space race era. So that's how that naming was presented. It came about and presented to the council, but it's really open-ended and it really doesn't necessarily have to be named anything. It could just be like you had mentioned, Councilmember Sternquist, maybe it just happens organically and it's just, maybe it's something we can leave blank and then at some point in the future, if something takes hold within the community, maybe that could be an addition to it or something.
Have you thought of having the community name it, just like the Camellia Festival goes out and has the theme for it and just
Sure.
really get the whole community engaged? I
So-
don't know if you thought about that.
It was a thought. One of the things that we're butting up against a little bit, and the reason why it was such a quick turnaround time, is that ideally we're able to have some direction as soon as possible, so then we can start, because this wasn't in the original design, we have to do some additional work to infrastructure work. So stubbing out utilities, if it's electrical, or pouring a concrete foundation or base for that to anchor into before we lay over the flat work, the sidewalk. So in terms of the timing of that, we can always do that after the fact, but it's not as ideal if we have to cut up or pull out existing concrete pathways to do that. So our hope was to try to push it forward as quickly as possible so we can provide that direction to the contractor so they can start getting that built while it's still opened up, right, before anything has been laid out. So we could do that, and I think the naming of it would probably be something that we could do and spend more time on. That doesn't necessarily need to be approved now, and we can still move forward with those other aspects. So that's something we could explore as a standalone.
Any other questions?
No.
William, any questions?
Just one. The location of the sign as shown on the plan, could you explain maybe the thought about placing it at that specific spot as
Sure.
opposed to the southern side?
Southern. So generally, if you're first entering onto the park from Bogue, that's going to be your typical entry point walking in from the Bogue side. So we thought that was the most prominent, that also had kind of a clear viewpoint from Bogue Street, from walking towards that. On the southern side, I mean, it could be placed somewhere along that pathway, but it probably doesn't have that same, I guess, perspective of being able to like kind of see it walking into it. You do get a lot of youth coming in from, like siblings that are watching their brother or sister playing like soccer or baseball. So they're coming in off from the field as well. So, I think you're getting, users coming in from all different areas. But from a kind of like an entry point onto the park, we just felt that was, it worked the best with the layout. as well as just kind of first coming out onto the park. But again, it's up to the direction of the council at this point. It's all opened up right now, so we can move or adjust that placement based on direction.
Okay. Yeah, I wasn't intending to question the locations specifically, but it's more of, I guess my question is, was the intent to have it signify an entryway into the space?
Yes.
Or is it more informational? Because part of at least what's shown appears to be kind of the history.
Correct. So,
or a little bit of both?
I think it's both. It does serve as kind of an entry point because I think visually it's attractive on its own, the monument sign. And then as you walk up to it, maybe you can see like, oh, hey, yeah, I see that's the comet zone, or that's the, comet, area, or whatever it may be, the different components of the playground. And then maybe the kids run off and jump on the playground equipment, and the parents may take a look at the history and be like, oh yeah, see, this is the inspiration. This is the old rocket that used to be here. So I think it potentially serves both of those purposes, entry point as well as education.
Okay, thank you. And just one last quick question. For both examples, both options, is the intent to have the information on both sides or only one side?
One-sided.
It's
so,
just one-sided.
I believe.
Oh, I see. I forgot about this
some
view.
information will be on the
Correct, yeah.
That slide answered my
The
question.
dedication side would be the back facing the playground, and then facing towards the street would be the history, and then the playground information.
Okay, thank you.
So I have a couple of questions. So as a follow-up to Councilmember Mann's question about the entrance, and looking at the proposed location diagram, it would appear to me, and I could be wrong, that looks like a walkway that goes from the parking lot into the park itself.
Correct.
So that would be more of a natural type of entranceway.
Correct.
Whereas around the rest of the park, there isn't such a walkway or lead-in. It doesn't appear to be, at least on the map. They would just kind of walk into the playground. Is that true, or is that, because I don't see that on the map where you could, although you could look, maybe you got down in the right-hand corner, there looks like maybe a
I was just thinking of the walking path that kind of.
Yeah, I don't know where is the walking path in comparison to where this is going to be in the park? Do we know that, or do we remember where that's going to be?
Highlight this. Oh yeah, okay. So that orange highlight is the walking path. So it's going to butt up right against the walking path.
Okay.
So, from an entry point from the south, basically all along that walking path, you can filter into the play area. So there's not a funneling aspect to the south of where people would generally like walk towards. But it also means you can probably put it anywhere along the south area, and it's all kind of similar because it is butted up against the walking path.
Well, the obvious question is, okay, if we're thinking of putting one sign in, what's wrong with putting two signs in? But I'm assuming it's a cost.
Well,
So would it be twice the amount of what we're talking about here, or because we're going to do two similar signs, let's say, would we get a little bit of a break on that, or?
There's probably some break with, the construction and the materials, and maybe the installation a little bit, but I wouldn't imagine it's a very large discount. So I think you would look at basically doubling the cost.
And I think you answered one of my earlier questions, and that has to do with, it sounds to me like we're working under a time constraint here for whatever reason. Because, correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't believe that tonight's presentation was presented to either the ad hoc committee or the Parks and Rec Commission. Is that true?
That's correct. So,
and the reason for that is because of the time?
Because of the time frame.
So what is the time frame? What do we realistically, when do you need a response from us? Is it tonight, or do we have time to flesh this out? Maybe send it to the ad hoc committee to flesh it out a little bit more? What are we talking about?
I would say, generally speaking, we need something within, if we were to kick this over, maybe one more meeting of the city council.
Although I don't know that kicking it over one more meeting is going to allow that vetting to go to the ad hoc or the commissioners, certainly. So it's kind of a useless thing at this point, I think.
Well, I
What is
think
the goal date for this opening?
Well, we're looking in early 2025. The shade sales have been going up this last week. The bigger ones just come up. We'll have a more definitive time frame in the next about 2 weeks to really know what's a week, what's a really solid week. We can tell you that it's open. I think just generally speaking though, because of the fact that we're going to do utility cuts and everything else with it, that's why in the next couple of weeks, it would be important for us to know if this is something the council, from the prior direction we received from the council, are these the general concepts you want to go with? Is this the general location you want to go with? To the naming and branding, that's all, as Mr. Matsumoto has pointed out, that can be, that's secondary at this point. It's just, are we good with a kind of the general concept? We can come back as it maybe you're looking for a few little refinements or anything else, but we'll probably need to know in the next couple weeks.
Okay, so after you went through all of that, your answer is yes, we'd like to know tonight.
Respectfully.
Put it over one more meeting, but I don't know what that's going to accomplish.
That's at the council's discretion as well.
Well, it's always at our discretion, but I'm just asking you a question. 2 weeks isn't going to make a difference. It doesn't sound like.
But going beyond 2 weeks, though, going to the end of the month would put us in a bind. It would challenge us.
So you need some answers. Okay. All right. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yeah. So at a minimum, if we have direction that yes, we want the sign, and whether lighting is desired or not, that would allow us to at least preliminarily do that as part of the construction phase of pouring the foundation, running stub outs to that location. So then that might buy us some time on the design if there's really a desire to have that more robust review of it.
Or maybe get other voices on this, like as mentioned earlier, maybe the community get involved or something like that. But anyway, we'll discuss that as we go. Okay, I don't have any other questions at this time unless anybody else has any further questions. If not, I will open up the public comment. Does anyone in the audience wish to speak at this time? Anybody else? No? We're good? Okay. So I will close public comment, and now we are ready for any final questions and/or comments, which I think is going to be the big part of this discussion as to where we're going to go with this or how we want to move forward.
Why do we ask questions again?
No, well, it says final questions, but it really means final comments.
Okay, cross out that questions.
All right, in case you had something else, because, you forgot.
Just kind of move this on.
All right, so why don't we start over here on this end. Councilmember Sternquist, do you have any final comments on what has been proposed this evening?
I like the concept. I think it would be important to have it lit. I don't have a problem with the location as shown. I think it's just a nice accent to the park itself. So I'd be in favor of this.
The concept?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Councilmember Mann, any final comments?
Was it a preference for the options? Option 1 or 2?
The one on the left, I think.
A rocket.
The rocket, yeah.
Okay. Go ahead, Councilmember Mann.
I don't know where to begin. It's I think the signage is important. I think I do recall the discussion as a council. Anything that can help. I mean, for us, maybe it's natural for us to understand the context and the history. But perhaps for some residents, especially if you haven't lived in Temple City for a long time, you might not really understand the significance, why it's such a big deal for some of us to have this theme and have it the way it is. So I'm all for supporting the signage. I think the lighting is a nice idea. I've always been a fan of, if you go there like around this time of the year and it gets dark really out, you can't see anything. So I'm all for lighting. When done correctly, I think it really adds an element, a different dimension to the park. As for the name, I'll just be frank, I'm not a fan of the name. I think I'm more inclined to think that it should be nameless. I think the community will naturally come up with a name colloquially, like kind of like your example, Mr. Matsumoto, of the one in San Gabriel. Yeah, I rarely hear people really refer to that. They just call it the dinosaur sea monster play area, right? And people know exactly what they're talking about. So in the future, we're hoping people will say, oh, the rocket ship, and then everybody will know that's in Temple City, that's in Live Oak Park. So I don't think the naming is important. If there's opportunities to maybe get the community involved, I think that would be a great idea. That's something we can do in the future, but I don't think we really need to settle on that now. The rocket ship, I think when I first saw this, I felt, well, the rocket's already going to be a really prominent feature of the park. Does the sign also need to be a rocket? That was kind of like my first thought. So even though I'm not aesthetically, I'm kind of unsure about option 2, but I'm probably leaning more towards something like that since I feel like there's already a rocket there. Why make another rocket as part of the sign?
Because it's going to be called Rocket Park, you know that.
I guess.
The community's going to call it that.
Yeah, but other than that, maybe for practical purposes, if council does at least have some agreement on having a sign and having it lit, then, you know, from a construction standpoint, like you mentioned, there could be preparations done that just make it easier to put in sooner than later. So, and as for my question for the location, that was more out of curiosity. I actually think that is probably the best place to put it, all things considered.
Okay, thank you. Councilmember Chen.
Yes, Mr. Mayor. So one of the most memorable trips I took this year in July, was very lucky to do that as part of my son was selected for a USSSA, United States Specialty Sports Association, one of the 2 travel ball host organizations, for a week-long tournament in Central Florida called All-American. So extremely proud of my son for that accomplishment. But during that trip, I was able to take him to the Kennedy Space Center and just be really inspired by all the details that they put into that amusement park almost, and just learning so much about it. Growing up in Temple City, I know Steve Lindsay and our very own Temple City resident and its connection to the space program. I'm just thinking if there's any way to tie that in, because I looked up his bio real quick. He graduated Temple City High School in 1978, which makes him born in that 1960 era. Perhaps he played on those that rocket in Live Oak Park, which is not part of my memory of growing up in Temple City, but perhaps it did for him, and got him to be a legend in being an astronaut. So I'm excited about it. I think, like Councilmember Sternquist said, there could be time for the community or to name this space. But I'm in favor of option 1 because of the rocket. But I definitely see Councilmember Mann's point. But I think it's good to provide direction early on, and some lighting will be needed. So.
Okay, thank you. Mayor Pro Tem, you, final comments.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So I agree with pretty much everything that's been said, other than the options. I agree that the park does need a sign. I wish I would have been considered at the get-go, but being somebody in construction, I understand sometimes decisions don't get made until the last minute, and then I'm glad that we still have time to catch it, even though it seems like a rush for the council. So I appreciate all that, and I definitely in agreement with the location. I think it's a good spot. That's where naturally when people would consider that the first place what you would see, even though the rock is in the back. So I agree with the location, agree with the sign. I also agree that it needs to be lit. I mean, times like these, it's great. And then it just adds so much richness to have a sign. Because it's more than just a sign. It is really a symbol. It's also something you can go up and touch and walk around. As far as the naming, I wasn't too wild with the Astro name, but I hold my reservation there because if we don't have some kind of naming, if you look at the two design, there's, especially with the rocket design, there's really not much else to put on that one side. It looks kind of bland or blank. So I think we might want to rethink about the name. Maybe something else, maybe the ad hoc can work on that. But as far as the two design, you know, maybe it's too literal to make it a rocket, but however, we're dealing with kids, and kids are very, very literal. And I actually would much prefer a rocket design, especially, initially I didn't like it because I thought, oh gosh, it looks like a surfboard. This is not serving USA, you know? But then again, when I start looking at the 3D image, there's some thickness to it, so maybe the designer can make it thicker so it doesn't look so obvious as like a surfboard. The other design option too, when I first looked at it, I said, wait a minute, that's a walking paper clip or something. It did not look to me like folding wings. And then also folding wings, what does that really mean in space? It doesn't quite, you know, I was trying to think of all the Star Wars rocket ships and all that, but I still cannot quite, maybe lack of imagination on my part, I can't quite relate that to anything necessarily spatial. So in terms of design, I much prefer the option one. Maybe it's very literal, but I think that, and I also appreciate most of the writing and signage is actually towards the bottom of the signage because I imagine these kids will walk up to it. But then on the other hand, you know, what about adults? Do we all need to bend down? So at my age, bending down might be kind of rough. So maybe we have to think of different kind of display for different age group to be able to touch and feel and see. So other than that, I like the idea and thank you for bringing it back.
Okay, thank you. Okay, well, I do agree with much of what has been said so far this evening. Just a few comments. I like having a sign. There's no question. I think we're all in agreement that signage would be good. Location, fine with me. I think it does need lighting. It would add a lot because it does get dark and there will be people there playing and attending the park. So all those things are good, positive things that I think come out of this. Frankly, I don't like either one of these options, okay? When I first looked at option one, I didn't think spaceship, I thought missile or bomb. It didn't look to me like, I don't know, the right message. And then I agree with William's comment when I look at it. I think by having a rocket design actually takes away from the rocket that's actually going to be in the park, which nothing doesn't look anything like this, okay? So why have that there? It's just inconsistent to me. And I understand that everybody's, well, that was the 60s, but you know what? Maybe it's time to move on from the 60s, okay? We've moved on as far as the design from the 60s. This is a new futuristic design, and it takes into account what's kind of going on now, not what was going on in the 60s. So that, to me, I didn't like that at all. And then the second option, I like your comment about the paper clips. I didn't think about that. But when I first looked at that, to me, it looked like a pair of trousers, okay? And so I didn't really see the theme in there. And I mean, we can call it wings, but I don't see how that's wings either. So I didn't really care for either of those options. Whether we need to make that decision this evening, I'm not really clear on. Perhaps it'd be enough to, let's say, okay, we're good with the signage, we're good with where it's going to go, we're good with lighting so that the contractor can do those types of things. But I think we need to vet out a little bit more what we're going to actually put on the sign or what the sign is going to look like. And I kind of tend to agree with a couple other comments. Do we really even need a name? Okay, because people, I think, are going to call it what they want to call it. I mean, you could even put on the signage, I mean, welcome to Live Oak Park Playground or something like that. It's a welcome sign, and that's what it should say. And then, of course, it'll have the information of what this is all about. And so just having a general welcome sign without having an actual name, I wouldn't have no problem with that. I didn't like, of course, the name Astro. Again, that seemed the 260s to me also.
Of the Jetsons.
Yeah, I don't know.
The dog
It
was
reminded me of
named
like
Astro.
AstroTurf or Astrodome or something like that back in the 60s. That's when we were growing up. And that's what things were called. I think we need to kind of move up to maybe more of a thing. So I actually looked up similar words for Astro, and the one that I keep coming across was the word galaxy. And I like that word galaxy for some reason. I'm not saying we should use that, but it seems like a more up-to-date type of term if we're going to try to name it. Could be, Galaxy Playground, Galaxy Park, something like that. I would rather see than Astro. But again, I don't know that we need to decide that tonight. Or even not even have a name and just a welcome to Live Oak Park Playground and let people call it what they want, which is what they're going to do anyway. They're not, if they see one sign at Live Oak Park calling it something, I can guarantee you not everybody's going to take that name and just use it. Say, hey, let's go to so-and-so park. They're going to say, let's go to what we feel it's like. So those are my comments. I would be in favor, again, and this is maybe another question to Adam, is do you have enough information based on what you've heard tonight? There seems to be a consensus on the major points of the sign and the lighting and where it's going to go, but there is still a little bit of maybe further discussion to be had on the actual final design or name. And that sounds to me like what I've heard can wait. So I would be inclined to maybe take what you've heard tonight and maybe send this back to the ad hoc to flesh out maybe some further design concepts and name if we want to do it, or come back and say, yeah, I don't think we really need a name.
Yeah.
So that would be my inclination. Anybody wants to be heard further on that? Go
No, I
ahead.
just want to
Yeah.
add to
Yeah.
your point, Mayor, if I may. Yeah, I think having the ad hoc work closely with staff would be the way to go. And in terms of timing, I do think that it would be great to have it decided tonight, but I don't think there's anything wrong with knowing that the location is about there, to have the contractor or designer design it so there's a block out in the ground, so you can run your conduits and wait for future concrete and anchorage to be put. But that will allow the ad hoc some time, to buy them some time to make a more thorough decision, because it's a major piece of it's a major design element of the park. So
Right. And what we can do
So I
to
think-
your point, Mayor Pro Tem, is we can just like take what the dimensions are, generally speaking,
Yeah.
so that when we do the stub outs and everything else with the contractor, we can at least have those worked out. And if there's only any tweaking we need to do later, we can do that later.
yeah,
But
so I'm just supporting what the mayor just said.
I think, just to follow up on that, I think from what I've heard so far, we're all in agreement of the fact that the signage content, I think, is a good thing. A little bit of history, a little bit about what each section represents. I love that. I think it's great. And people will read that and look at it. Not so much necessarily having to even have a name or whatever, but where we put that or how we put that, on what we put that is probably what needs to be kind of vetted out a little bit more.
Okay, but
And maybe I know, since it's an ad hoc, maybe they can meet sometime in the next 2 weeks or before the next meeting and have a little bit more discussion to have regarding that and
Mayor?
make a final determination. Was that fair?
Yep, it's fair, but I'm just going to throw this out there just because of timing and holidays coming up. And I think they know that those two weren't top of anybody's list. That in that 2-week period, you come back to the next meeting with some optional designs.
That's fine. Either way works for me.
Because I think it would move the process along more quickly than if William and I got together with a group and then we do this. It might not happen in the next 2 weeks, but definitely we know we're having a meeting in the next 2 weeks. Is that enough time for you to come back with maybe 4 other
Yeah, well,
concepts?
Ryan, do you think you could come up with another couple of options? to look at, to put the sign, as far as the sign itself?
I think we could tweak these. I guess one helpful feedback for us would be if you like a more literal interpretation of a rocket or a more conceptual kind of signage element, more conceptual signage element, which it sounds like by the voting of just what's here, that option one of a rocket maybe in a different form would be favorable.
Or maybe even like a solar system or the moon and Mars or something where this rocket is going to in space. But maybe something that veers away from the actual rocket, because I think.
Yeah, I don't think we need a double rocket. We have a rocket in the park, we don't need a rocket sign.
Yeah, so I agree if you could come up with something entirely different, that's maybe where this rocket is.
We'll bring them to like a third option.
What else goes into space besides rockets and?
Sometimes my brain, but that's okay.
I don't know.
Yeah. But no, I was just suggesting that holidays and
What do you
everything
think,
else.
William?
May not coming back in 2 weeks may not give the team enough time to develop that. But I think I would think that the mayor's suggestion of maybe doing a block out right now, getting the conduit in place, to give the team a little bit more time to develop the idea, because
How long did it take to make a sign similar to these? Or what's the time limit on that? Do you know?
I don't have an exact, it depends on
month?
who it is,
2
but
months?
I would say, at least a couple months from just getting all of the text together and review process and then them actually fabricating it.
Well,
If I may,
go
so
ahead.
with Primrose Park, we had those public art elements that weren't finalized until after the completion of the park. Again, it's not ideal, but as long as we build in the infrastructure to be able to install it, we could take our time with it.
I think that's what we heard before, and that's why we're okay with that. You have the concept, we're all in agreement, we're gonna put something there. We just don't know exactly today, and it may take a little while to come with a final concept. And that's why I suggested maybe sending it back to ad hoc so they can flesh it out. Even if that takes 30 to 45 days, that should, even if we don't have the sign there on opening day, that's not gonna be a big deal. We can always put it there at any time.
Right, that's what.
That's what we did with Primrose.
Right,
And nobody even noticed or said, hey, where's the sign? Right? They're not gonna say that.
As long as we have, which I think we have consensus on, the location, the lighting, that allows us from a contractor standpoint to be able to do that. So it buys us that time. And if the council is okay with it maybe not being ready exactly on grand opening, with the desires more so to get it right, then we have that ability by doing that tonight.
Are we okay with that? Yeah, I think everybody's okay with that. And also, I might add, try to stay within the cost guidelines.
Yes, we would stay within the cost.
About $30,000 range.
That's, we would take that as direction tonight as well, that we would stay no higher than the highest cost noted right here. So that'll be the parameters we work under.
Okay. All right.
So that's, we don't really need a motion for that tonight. I think we just got direction.
Okay, so you have the direction.
Yep.
And anything else you need from us tonight?
No, that will be it.
Okay, Adam,
Thank you.
okay?
Sure, and
Okay.
we'll convene the.
We'll talk about when we convene the ad hoc.
Sure. Yeah, we can get, at some point, we'll get that.
Yeah, we'll talk. Thank you.
And maybe, I think in the prior ad hoc meetings, correct me if I'm wrong, you've met with the designer as well?
Yes,
Right?
they met
Okay,
with
so that would
Ryan and the team.
Obviously be helpful.
And
I
Ryan,
understand-
it's,
I understand with the holidays coming up, our time is limited.
Yeah.
But even if it's right after the first of the year, it sounds like we're okay.
We're okay then.
All right?
Yeah. And it's not that these are bad, but you worked with us before and you know how picky we are about this park.
Well, anytime you get 5 people trying to make it one decision, you're always gonna have a difference. But
Yeah.
I think the concept, I think the fact that we're gonna put a little history on there, those are great ideas. It's just where we're gonna put them and how they're going to be arranged is the big deal. Okay?
Thank you.
All right, good. Well, thank you. It didn't take as long as I thought. So thank you very much for being here this evening, and we appreciate all your work.
Thank you.
Looking forward. Everybody's excited to see how that's going to turn out. And also, you're probably going to want to mention it, but I'm going to mention it ahead of you. We have some shades up there that you can actually see. And apparently, I haven't gone by there yet.
It's
but apparently
impressive.
They're very impressive. And that's
And
just
these
a
are the
couple of the
smaller
shades.
ones,
Those
right?
are the small.
Smaller ones.
Yeah.
So,
Those are the small ones.
yeah. So very excited. So thank you. Thank you, Adam. Okay. We'll now move on to item B, discussion regarding amending the regular city council meeting start time. Okay? Presenter, city manager Brian Cook. But he's not going to say anything because that's, I guess, our thing. So
Well,
how do we want to proceed with this?
Well, the one thing I can say is that this is at the discretion and would be an ordinance change under the municipal code. That the city, as a charter city, can make some discretionary decisions on the start time of their meeting, and as general law cities can as well, excuse me. But it's really at the discretion of the council. So we as staff will, and my colleague and I will be here whatever time you ask us to be here.
Okay, so we do have a report, okay, and there is really no recommendation, of course. So why don't we just kind of open up the discussion? Who wants to start off, let's say, discussing the, I guess, pros and cons of changing it or not changing it? Cynthia, do you want to start off?
Sure.
Okay, go ahead, thank you. And what you would prefer, to leave it the same time, move it up? I guess the proposal is, well, actually, there's an express interest in changing it from 7:30 to 7 start time. So we're not talking about a major change here. So go ahead.
I brought this up at our last meeting because I wait around a lot for 7:30 to come when we don't have a closed session. And it just seems late. I know most of the other councils that are on part of the COG, some of them meet in the morning, but most of them meet between 6 and 7. I think we're one of the few that meets at 7:30. And I thought maybe for the public, especially those elderly, maybe for elderly folks who tend to go to bed a little bit earlier, 7:30 could be a long meeting if it goes till 9:30 or 10. I think half an hour is also more beneficial to the staff that participates in the meeting because they do get off at 6. I mean, yes, they can go and have dinner and then come back, but I just think it makes things more convenient for not only community members. I would love it just because I'd like to get home earlier, especially if I have something I'm going to the next morning. So those are my thoughts. I know that it could be a little bit of a challenge for those of you who are still working, but I was hoping that that half an hour wouldn't be too much of a hardship.
Okay, thank you. Councilmember Mann, any thoughts on this matter?
Yeah, I think in general, I would echo a similar sentiment as Councilmember Sternquist about, I mean, we talk to our colleagues from other cities, so you get a sense of when they start, and we probably are one of the later start times. I think my question would, from maybe just a logistics standpoint, was if we did have a closed session, how would that change from a staffing standpoint? Because we generally start closed sessions sometime, 6:15 to 6:30?
6:15.
And then that gives us about an hour and change before the 7:30 start time. So should we presume that that pushes everything back another 30 minutes as well?
Theoretically, yes. We usually reserve an hour, sometimes half hour for closed session, but usually an hour. So closed session would probably start at 6 usually.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. Anything else?
No.
Okay. Councilmember Chen, any thoughts?
I don't have a preference either way.
Okay. You'd be good with either one?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Mayor Pro Tem.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm the one that would like to stick with 7:30. I mean, for me, getting here at 6:30 is a challenge to begin with. To move it even further up is going to be a major challenge for me. My work does not end at 5 o'clock or 5:30. I typically leave my office like 6:30, 7. So getting here at 7:30. I would leave early to come to closed session, but but that typically is not the time I leave my office. But I also always like 7:30 because I always thought that there'll be folks at home, perhaps if they were wanting to watch and be part of the city council proceedings, they can finish up dinner. Maybe people have early dinners, I don't know. But for people who are working, they need to get home, they need to commute, they need to get home, finish dinner, and then they can either watch it on a computer or watch it on cable TV, I suppose. But 7:30 would give people enough time to focus on a city council meeting. Having it too early, I don't know if that would offer people the chance to participate. You know, I think in most every decision that we make, we should make for the people that are least able to accommodate, rather than people that it can be easily accommodated. In other words, we should design the program so most everybody, because if you have it early, some people may not be able to do it. You have it a little later, 7:30, then most people can attend the meeting. And we should have closed session. I mean, maybe not for William and Ed here. We used to have closed session after the city council meeting.
Those are the good old days.
Good old days.
We'd be here till 1 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah, but we started 7:30 also. And we worked till, I think, as late, maybe my memory served me right, we had been as late as like 1 o'clock, I think, one time for whatever reasons. But, so keeping the city council meeting 7:30 will allow us to have the closed session, like what we have right now at 6:30. I mean, you guys saw me, even at 6:30, I don't always can get here on time. So, for me, 7:30 is the way to go. So, that's my suggestion.
Okay, thank you. I think all things being equal, I think moving it up a half an hour would not be that big of a deal. I do think it would benefit, first of all, staff, who generally are off at 5:30 or 6, not having to wait around for an hour and a half, and then another hour and a half or 2 hours before they actually can present. That makes for a very long day and evening for them. So I have that in mind. As far as the closed sessions, it seems to me, and I could be wrong, but it seems like we're having fewer closed sessions now than we did before, although that could certainly change and certainly can be accommodated. I do find, though, that the earliest we usually start our closed sessions, unless it's something really drastic, usually start around 6:30. That gives us about an hour. But as I can recall, most of those 6:30 closed sessions don't take an hour.
Yep.
So, 30, 45 minutes maybe at the max. And so moving it up a half hour, the regular meeting, and let's say starting our closed session at 6:15 rather than 6:30. And I know that would be a hardship on you. I completely
definitely
understand
a hardship
that.
on me, yes.
But even 6:30 is a hardship sometimes.
Even
for
6:30
you.
hardship,
Okay,
but pushing it means it starts at 6.
Yeah, no,
So-
I understand that, but I mean, maybe we could look a little harder as to what that closed session's gonna be about, and not just put it at 6 o'clock just as a matter of
Or
course.
Mayor, if we go with 7 o'clock, then I would request closed session be start at the end.
Well, or I know some councils can have a closed session before, and if they don't finish the business, can adjourn it and then take it up at the end of the meeting as well. So those are kind of things that we certainly can accommodate, and the only one that really would be, I guess, to be put out would be us, but, that's kind of what we signed on to do a little bit. So, as far as accommodating those in the public who are wanting to come to the meeting, I understand that there's certainly people out there that would probably rather come earlier because they're by nature early people and they want to get home and maybe they go to bed earlier. And there are others who, as you say, want to stay home, have their dinner, get ready, then come out at 7:30. So I think that kind of balances itself out. I'm not sure how many were before that or against that. But, I can only tell you that most of the regional meetings or the other bodies that I belong to, we start our meetings at 4:30, 5:30. And these are people coming from all over the Southland, and we're all there. And, you know, it is what it is. But of course, you know, and those, some of those meetings are open to the public, some are not. But I personally, and I do agree with Cynthia to a certain extent, if we don't have a closed session, I get home from work, and of course, I'm probably a little luckier than most because I can leave whenever I want, right? And I come home, and I like to get out of my office earlier than later, so I come home and I go home, and I don't know about you guys, but I get in my chair and I don't want to get back up and go out, and I'm there, and sometimes I fall asleep, and I'm thinking, oh damn, I got to go to a meeting now in a half an hour or 4 and a half. So there is that big gap in there for me, and I think I probably not so much for Ed because your hours are different. Cindy, you're retired. I know you work, and your hours are, it's tough for you to leave work all the time really as well. So I think we have to keep that in mind as well. But I think all things considered equal, I think we can work around your schedules one way or another, and that is to either have start a closed session, even if we started at 6:30. If we don't finish it by 7, we can always take it up after the meeting and finish it off at that time. Of course, that won't really add anything to our days because we would have started at 7:30 anyway, and we would have still been here. So that's kind of my thinking. I have no problem moving it from 7:30 to 7, and in fact, I would probably favor that move. Okay. So anybody else have any further discussion or points they want to bring up at this point? So I guess, I mean, Mr. City Attorney, it is on the agenda. There has been no recommendation. I guess from this standpoint, we can do it like we normally do, and somebody could make a motion.
And the motion would be.
Do you need to bring it back?
Oh, yeah, the motion would be to direct
Staff
to prepare an ordinance.
Okay. All right, so unless there's any further discussion, then I will entertain a motion one way or another on this.
I'll make that motion.
Okay.
Do they get to speak? Public?
Oh,
Or is that
yeah,
at the
yeah,
next?
I don't really have a public comments, but sure, why not? It's only 7:45. No, is it 8:45?
What time is it?
Oh, no, it's 9 o'clock.
9:05.
Oh, that clock, I can't see that clock from here. Yes, go ahead.
I have a question.
Okay, tell us who you are. Just for the record.
Dawn Taryn.
All right, thank you.
I have a question. Your commissions follow the city council's time frame? So if you're taking this, would the commissions also be, they start at 7:30?
I think that's a separate issue, isn't it?
Separate.
I don't know. There's something, you might have to look that up. I don't know.
I'm not, off the top of my head, I'm quite frankly not sure.
Yeah.
So it's something I have to look up.
Okay.
I know that, we'd have to look and see if that's actually in the ordinance as far as the commission meetings are and how that would be affected. And also, I know we have other committees. We have the youth committee, we have the senior committee. They set their own times, so we don't.
Yeah.
They don't start at
I know
7:30.
commissions in
Just the
South
commission.
Pasadena vary according to the group of
Yeah,
commissioners.
sometimes they're during the day.
Yeah.
I know Pasadena meets during the day.
Yeah.
So, it's all over the board, so.
I'd have to look it up.
Yeah, we'll
I'm
have
sorry,
to
I'm
look
sorry, I
it up.
don't know off the top.
Good question, and we'll have to follow up on that. Thank you. Okay, so we do have a motion.
Can I ask one more,
Yeah, go ahead. Go
one more
ahead.
question? Maybe for the city attorney. Do cities or councils get into trouble if, say, like let's say we theoretically moved our meeting to 7, and then we do our closed session at 6:30. It runs long. We start the regular meeting late because it ran long. Does that create some sort of legal problem for us, or does it not? Or
Generally, no. I would say, just legally speaking, the biggest time that it could create an issue, and I would certainly work with the city manager to avoid this, is if you had some kind of fee setting or rate setting on your agenda, because those are public hearings that, it's not just like adoption of a regular ordinance. Public hearing Those are individual mailed notices, Prop 218 notices that get mailed out. You really want those hearings to follow a certain schedule. That's something we can work with in terms of setting your agendas so that we don't have long closed sessions on those nights. Other than that, we have had recently, within the last year, I know, some closed sessions that have run to 7:40, 7:45. It's doable, it's not preferable, but it does not create a legal impediment.
And my understanding is that, and I know we've done this in the past, even when we started our meeting at 7:30, is we would adjourn, take it up later. It is a closed session and the public isn't going to, there isn't going to be any reportable action usually, and the public usually leaves anyway.
Correct, yeah.
So they're not going to wait around for us to get out of closed session. And I would think that one of the things we don't want to do is to go back and forth.
Right, yeah.
We're going to do closed session. If we don't finish our business, we'll adjourn to the regular meeting, and then we'll conduct a full regular meeting, and then we'll adjourn that, and then move into the re-adjourn into closed session.
Correct, yeah. And
And
it would just be part of we would give a closed session report stating that we'll be doing that.
Yeah,
So
that's
it's all
yeah.
doable.
All right. Okay, so we do have a motion. Do we have a second? Don't all jump up at once. I'll second that motion. Okay, so we have a motion and a second. Madam Clerk, if we could have roll call, please?
Can just clarify this, so the motion is just to move it to 7?
No, to bring back an ordinance.
Oh, bring back an ordinance.
Proposing moving the starting time of the regular meetings from 7:30 to 7 o'clock.
Oh, I see, so the motion wouldn't formally.
We're not doing anything tonight, we're just
It's just
asking
direction.
the staff to bring in. We can have further discussion at that time as well.
Okay. Yeah.
And also at that time, for whatever reason, the vote could change, or it could be different, or we could bring up other factors. We're all free to do that. This is.
And maybe more people will come to speak.
Well, they might. Certainly
see.
it'll be on the agenda. It'll be an agendized item, so
Okay.
they'll have notice of that.
Mr. Mayor, if I may add
Yeah.
one more thing, I know there's been a motion a second, but looked up, City of San Marino actually has a 6 o'clock meeting on a second Wednesday of the month, followed by a second meeting on the last Friday of the month at 8 in the morning. So.
That's crazy.
But it's a cadence that I guess they are used to and their citizens are used to. So I'm just wondering for this motion, or for this ordinance or resolution, if we want to look into possibly a day meeting on a Friday where, if that works for everybody else's schedule, in lieu of both meetings being on a evening time, that may prohibit some from.
Certainly that is a suggestion. Of course, it's the public that would have to get more used to that than us. And that is, not everybody can come to a Friday morning meeting. I'm sure, all of us up here probably can, but, whether people out there in the public, it'd be easier for them. And then, of course, we do have staff that's off on Fridays as well. So we'd have to take that into consideration.
Got it.
They're not always here on Friday, so that kind of brings up other issues, but, do we want to, well, let me ask you this, do you want to revise your motion to just have staff bring back a proposed ordinance simply to, change the start of the meetings and/or dates? Mr. City Attorney, would that be, that way, because I'm afraid that based on the motion that we just heard in the second, that we would not be able to discuss something like what Councilmember Chen just brought up about, well, how about if we do it on a Tuesday and Friday?
Right,
Would
so
we be limited to that?
Yeah, I think the best thing to do, have the ordinance that is brought to you state 7 PM on first and third Tuesdays.
Okay.
But then amend the motion so that there's direction to discuss in the staff report what this means for commission meetings, what some alternatives like the San Marino option might mean. Then you can have a more full discussion about what you all kind of see as the future of this. And if you decide to move forward with the 7 PM ordinance, you can do so that night because it'll be written. And if you decide to go a different direction, we can amend it and bring it back.
Okay, yeah, and I don't think there's any rush to judgment on any of this. Most of us that are sitting up here have been doing this for many, many years, and we're used to that. And it's not going to change anybody's life significantly over the next month or two. So, all right. So is that clear enough, Madam Clerk, as far as what we're going to, are you okay with that motion?
Sure, and I'm going to
Okay,
amend it to what Greg said.
Okay, so we'll do that. So that'll be the direction. Do you want to second that motion as well, or did you want to? Oh, no, I seconded it, that's right. Okay, I'll second that motion. Okay, so we have a motion and a second. So Madam Clerk, if we could have roll call, please.
Councilmember Chen?
Yes.
Councilmember Mann?
Yes.
Councilmember Sternquist?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Yu?
A very unhappy no.
Mayor Chavez?
Yes.
Make that, be that on the record.
That's okay. All right, thank you. So that motion passes, so we'll look forward to that in the future, and we'll go from there.
Okay.
Okay, so now we've got where are we? Item 11, update from our city manager.
Thank you, Mayor Chavez, members of the council. Friday, this coming Friday, will be lights on Temple City, starting at 5 o'clock. Adam? Thank you. Starting at 5 o'clock.
The parade starts at 5?
The event starts at 5. The parade starts at 7.
Oh, okay.
So we'll see you all on Friday.
We got to wait around for 2 hours? No, I'm just
No,
kidding.
you don't have to.
Sorry, I just had to bring that up.
And again, if you have the opportunity, Adam can arrange for you to put on a hard hat and take a tour of Live Oak Park and the playground and the shade sails. It's really impressive what's already out. It's quite amazing. Secondarily, with the additional funding that you provided at 2 meetings ago with the Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department, our partners in law enforcement, on top of the overtime that you provided in the past. Holiday time is a time for theft, unfortunately. So you will start to see more patrols at our major shopping centers at Rosemead Boulevard and Las Tunas. So you'll start to see a little bit more of a presence out and about. Obviously, too, with GW Supermarket, and there's a lot more activity there. So we'll be starting to see a little bit more of a presence during the holiday time with our LA County Sheriff's special team and our overtime team that's out there. Again, we are making a very conscious effort. It was discussed at the last law enforcement meeting with traffic enforcement in the city, where we were really trying to crack down on not inconsequential things, but we were trying to crack down on speeding and other things that you're seeing throughout the city. So we're working with the team, we're working with OTS again to do, hopefully, it may not be possibly in December, but in January and February, in the early months of next year, to have some of those additional targeted efforts, along with as much as we can to get the motor out as well. So we've heard the community's concerns, we've heard the community's issues, and we are trying to respond as much as we can.
I'd just like to piggyback on that a little bit. And, December, people are so distracted, just out and about. My husband he was at Ralph's, and he came out, and in the empty shopping cart next to where he parked, there was a beautiful Valentino leather purse, and someone had left it in the cart, probably just put their bags inside, and he took it into the manager, but it had her license, and there was quite a bit of cash in there, and I just think we're so busy. It's such a busy time. Yeah, she was very lucky, but they locked it up, and they were going to try. They said she comes in regularly, so they were going to be able to give it back to her. But it's just time to slow down a little bit. And I appreciate our sheriffs. I saw them driving up and down my street today, so thank you.
They can't drive up. Well, they go
They
up
drove up, and then
come
they
back.
came down. Yeah,
Nice.
it's very nice.
Okay. Thank you very much. All right. Anything else?
That'll do it, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. All right, Mr. City Attorney.
Sure, very briefly, just an update. Assembly Bill 2631 was signed by the governor last month. And for those of you who previously took your Assembly Bill 1234 training online, and for the sake of the public, Assembly Bill 1234 requires all elected officials and certain other designated decision makers in cities to take a 2-hour ethics training every 2 years. Earlier this year, the Fair Political Practices Commission staff announced to local government officials that they would no longer be providing free training. The legislature responded with Assembly Bill 2631, which requires the FPPC to provide free online ethics training to government officials. So you will no longer have to go to a conference or find another way to pay to have your training. Beginning next year, the FPPC will again provide it online for free. So, nice.
And that is the boringest time you can ever spend.
Unless I'm the one giving the training, in which case you laugh for the full 2 hours.
They need to spice that up a little bit. Okay, thank you. Okay, where are we? Lost my place here.
Council reports.
Yeah.
13.
Okay, we have any council reports? Anybody to report on any ad hoc or standing committee meetings? I don't think we've had any. Anybody? No, we're good? Okay. Now we will move on to item 14, council items separate from the city manager's regular agenda. And we'll, as we always do, start off with Councilmember Chan.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
We need to have the clerk change that order every once in a while.
I received a request from Mother Against Drunk Driving. So on the note of traffic safety, each year they select a date. I believe December 13th is this year. It's called the Illuminate California campaign for communities that had suffered, these loss of life due to drunk driving. So they respectfully requested that Temple City illuminate parts of our public building. I forward the request to Mr. Cook, but I also wanted to bring this up in this forum. I'll forward the request to the rest of the council. I think it'd be meaningful for us to participate and invite our partners at the school district, the sheriffs, to also participate in light of the tragedy that happened earlier this year. We appreciate all the work that city staff and the sheriff's department have done to really address some of these traffic issues, and I think we've definitely heard from our community. But I think this will be a meaningful way to participate through Matt.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for doing that. All right, Councilmember Mann, anything?
Just briefly, I am looking forward to Lights on Temple City. It's always a fantastic event, very crowded, especially around the tree area.
And the weather's supposed to be very nice, actually, supposed to warm up a little bit.
Yeah. So definitely looking forward to that. I think Ace Hardware is having their.
Thank you for the reminder. If you got, you can
Is
go
it
ahead.
is it their grand opening?
Yeah.
Even though
they've been open, but this
They're
is
calling
gonna
it a reopening, actually.
Oh, they're calling it real?
Yeah, but
Oh, okay.
it's kind of like.
Friday
they're
morning.
open, but they're formally opening.
Yeah, but so I'm looking forward to that. But having been around the plaza and inside, the response to Ace Hardware has been overwhelmingly positive. So
Yeah, I've heard nothing but good things about it.
So I really hope they do well and that we all support our local businesses, especially them. So it really adds a different element to that plaza. I mean, when Rite Aid was there, it was kind of always, I always felt like it was always teetering on the brink. So kind of injects a little bit of extra life in there. So looking forward to that. And yeah, that's all I have.
Good, thank you. Councilmember Sternquist.
Not much, but I just want to say that Ralph's now carries Rite Aid, which was Thrifty Ice Cream. So you can get Thrifty Ice Cream at our Ralph's now.
Wait, you mean in the cartons?
In the cartons.
They don't have a place to.
No, but they had chocolate
Good to know.
malted crunch, so.
Good to know.
Yeah.
All right.
But nothing else. Looking forward to Lights on TC.
Good. Okay, Mayor Pro Tem Yu.
Nothing to add, Mayor.
Okay, thank you. Let's see. Also, by the way, just to piggyback on Councilmember Mann on the Ace Hardware, it is at 10 o'clock on Friday, and they're going to have giveaways apparently all weekend.
Nice.
So for people, public to enter into free giveaways. So that should be a nice thing, and the chamber will be there, I believe, as well on Friday. Busy weekend. We do, on Sunday, we're actually taking the youth committee to Homestead. We're taking a Homestead tour. They fix up the Homestead Museum for the holidays.
Yes.
So it's very festive and very nice, and should be a good outing. We generally go there every year, and kids usually have a good time there. And also, I believe we have the Women's Club's holiday party on Sunday evening as well. And that is at?
The Elks Lodge.
At the Elks Lodge, okay. So that's
In San Gabriel.
Sunday evening, so a very busy weekend for everyone as well. I just had a question, not expecting an answer, but, you know, I don't know if does anybody, I'm sure some of you have Ring. Do you get these notices on Ring? Like, for example, this weekend, I was getting all these alerts that there were loud booms, and there were groups of individuals with masks roaming the neighborhood and looking in people's yards and houses. Anybody get those? I was getting them.
Yeah, I got them too.
Did you get them? I think it's from our area.
Right. If you subscribe to some kind of announcement, you get them too.
And I was going to bring it up at our next sheriff meeting because it bothers me that people can get away with doing these things. As it turns out, it was all fake and false, but it was to get people kind of riled up, I think. And people were all shook up and commenting, "Oh my God." And then, of course, the question is, well, did you call the police? Well, no one calls the police because, of course, there's nothing to call them about. And supposedly, they even went as far as to tell people to meet at the Starbucks on the corner of Baldwin and Baldwin and Live Oak for a neighborhood watch meeting on Saturday night. Of course, that never took place either. So it just bothers me that people can do that and they seem to get away with it. And I don't know. I guess this is more a question for the sheriff, and that is, what if anything we can do to it? Should we report these, and maybe they could look into it? But obviously, there were no police cars called. Nobody was roaming around, and it's just kind of weird. But anyway, that was something I was just wondering if anybody else.
I believe you can turn them off.
Can you?
But doesn't mean that the poster would
Yeah,
still be
they still
posting
post
it.
them.
Other people will be getting it.
Yeah,
then
other
too,
people get it unless you can cut them off. Yeah, so I'm probably going to do that as well. So, okay, I think that's it. Looking forward to Nights on Temple City. It's always a nice event, and it sounds like it's going to be a little bit warmer that evening, so we'll all have a good time. And Adam already promised no golf carts this year, so we should be good. Okay. With that, we will move on to item 15, additional public comments on items not listed on the agenda. Jerry's not here tonight, so I don't think we have anything additional to report. Anybody else? Pastor, thank you for coming this evening. We really appreciate your attendance, and thank you all for coming this evening and hanging out. And so unless there's anything further, I will close public comment and